Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Welcome to part 2 of my little mini-series looking at my top 5 pens that I have in my collection at the start of 2022. Last week we looked at the top 5 pens that were under 100 Australian dollars. This week we're going to look at pens between 100 and 200 Australian dollars. Then next week it'll be the final and we'll be taking a look at the pens over $200. Join me now down on the mat. Let's jump on in and take a look at today's top 5. Welcome down to the mat. Time to take a look at the pens that I've picked between 100 and 200 Australian dollars as my top 5 pens. So the first pen, it's the Platinum 3776 Century. This is in the Burgoyne colour. This was 200 Australian dollars when I bought it, so it's right on the line. If you were to buy it today, it is more than that. I mean, I've had this pen nearly 2 years. It's a classic looking pen. We've got the Platinum 14 karat gold nib there. This is a medium nib. Cartridge converter. So there we've got the Platinum converter in there, full of ink. This is a pen that I find is a nice one to use for longer note-taking sessions. Yes, the line it puts down is fairly fine, but it also dries quite quickly. So this is position number 5, and it goes to the Platinum 3776 Century. It's a medium nib. I say 14 karat gold. All the rest of the pens in this, they're all steel nibbed. This is the only gold nibbed pen. The ink is by Cult Pens. Made for them by Diamine, which is why I nearly wrote Diamine. And it's called Little Bob. I say it was $200, and my wetness test, you see, it's not overly wet. I'll just write a sentence. I love the feedback on this. I really like the Platinum feedback. It's nice. It's really tactile. You can really feel it coming out of the nib. To me, that's so enjoyable. Now, I wrote there with the pen unposted. It's just about usable unposted. It does post. It posts quite nicely. If I'm going to be doing a real long session, I may actually post it, because I do find it makes it feel a little bit more comfortable, even though it makes it feel initially heavy on the back. But it's usable unposted. If we look at the ink on here, look at the ink on the page. So this is like a red ink when it's coming out, so we've got like this purpley red, which matches the Burgoyne colour. But as it dries, it's got this gorgeous gold sheen, which comes out really well in this pen. Yeah, hopefully you can see that coming over on the camera. Quite pretty, quite a nice combo as well. But this pen, it comes in position number 5, mainly because of the shortness, I've got to be honest, and the fact that the nib is a bit on the thin side for me. I want to get another 3776 eventually, and there I'll try something like a music nib, hopefully try and get a nice wider line from it. So position 5, Platinum 3776 Century. Position number 4, well, I'm afraid it goes to the big boy. The Ranga Model 5. Just gonna fetch in that Platinum again. Just look at the size difference. The Ranga, it's a monster of a pen. Beautiful writer. It's very big. But for all of the fact that it's big, it's made of acrylic, it's actually very light. If we take the cap off, the cap is half of the full length. Still leaves a big pen. Just look at that. If I wanted to post it, I could do, I don't know why I would, because it's just too long. We have a number 6 steel nib on here. This is a Ranga nib that I've got on here. When you're ordering from Ranga, because you can buy these direct from Ranga, you've got the choice of the Ranga nibs, Yoho nibs, Bock nibs. You can have steel, you can have gold, and even some of the nibs are in titanium. So there's a wide range of nibs you can get. I decided to get this one as a Ranga nib, and I got it with a broad. So this is a Ranga Model 5 with a broad nib. I think for a pen this size, I think the broad nib is a really good choice. It cost, when I bought it, 142 Australian dollars. And I bought it on a Ranga group buy. Ranga do these group buys. They usually have 1 or 2 a month. They're worth checking out their Instagram page, their Facebook page. Just keep an eye out for that, because the group buys tend to be quite good value. The ink is by Oster. And it's called Tranquility. Nice bluey green type of ink, and I think it goes quite nice with the body of the pen where we've got them green colours. This pattern is called Green Swirl. Quite pretty. Wetness, certainly a lot wetter than what we saw with the platinum, but it's a broader nib, and a lot of broader nib. Do my sentence. I like writing with this pen. It's very comfy for all its size. The section, very, very wide. I hold my pens down at the bottom of the section. It's very comfortable. Doesn't hurt when I'm writing, even if I use it for a long writing session. It's got a lip down here at the bottom. Again, I like that because my finger and thumb, they just rest against that. That's how I know where I am on the pen. Such an enjoyable pen to write with. Now, this is, if I can take it off, lots of threads. I've got a cartridge converter in here. The threads and the inside of the body, they're all resin. They're all the acrylic. If you wanted to, you could eyedropper this. Now, I've not tried it. I don't intend to try it. Why do you say? Well, if I filled that up with ink, I think I'd be writing for 2 years before it was empty. It's such a big pen. It's a very nice pen to write with. I enjoy it. And this really, to be honest, is why it comes in at position number 4. I think it's a really good, solid pen. So, number 4, Ranga Model 5. Let me just move the page up before we look at position 3. So, at position number 3, I'm giving that to the TWSBI VAC 700R. Now, this ink in here, I'm just trying to show you, it is a shimmer ink. So, I'm agitating the pen as I'm talking. It's a nice red ink in there, and that's a... Sorry about that. I've just had to step away and close the door to my office. Normally in the summer, I record with my patio door open. Otherwise, it gets very, very sticky in this room very, very fast. But unfortunately, I'm recording on Boxing Day, and the neighbours, they've just fired up, I don't know if it's a lawnmower or a strimmer, but I've just had to shut the door to get rid of that sound. So anyway, as I was saying, I'll agitate the pen. You see there a little bit of the ink, but there it's gone. I like the colour of the ink, and this is one of the things I like with this pen. With a transparent body, you can see the ink and you can see how that plays in the light. This is in the iris pattern, so we've got the flame effect there on the cap. I'll just take it off there. Got the flame effect on the nib. Just look at that. Really pretty nib. I believe it's a number 6 size nib. I believe it's made by Yoho. It's nice though. I enjoy writing with this. It's another broad pen. Even here with the section where you can see what's in the section I like. Now, one of the things with this pen, hopefully I can show you. This is the filling mechanism. It's a vacuum filler. So you would draw it out, push it down. As you're pushing down, what we're doing is we're creating a vacuum here. When it gets down near the bottom, the inside widens a bit. So as soon as you hit that, releases the vacuum and sucks the ink in. Now the other benefit that gives, hopefully we can see it, there's a plunger there at the bottom. If I work the mechanism and close it, there, hopefully you saw that going down. And if I open it, you should hopefully be able to see that plunger coming slightly up. So that seals the body off from the section. So if you're flying or if there's something happen and you lose pressure, you don't lose all the ink from the pen, you might only just lose what's in the section. Now at home, I always leave this open because if I don't leave it open, yes, it'll write until what's in the section is being used up, but it's not getting replenished from the body. So leaving it open is one of my top tips if I'm not going out. So let's do some writing with this. So we've got here a TWSBI VAC 700R. Again, it's a broad nib. When I bought this, it was 130 Australian dollars. I believe it's more than that now. The ink by Diamine, and it's Spiced Apple. This ink was part of the 2022 Inkvent series, and I will be honest with you, it was my number one favourite ink from the whole of the 2022 Inkvent. Let's just test for the wetness, and then I'll write a sentence. There's a nice feedback on this. It's not scratchy. It's not smooth. It's not got the pencil-like feedback that I get from the Platinum 3776. But there's just a tactileness to it. You can feel it. You can really appreciate the fact that it's writing. The pen sits nicely in my hand. It will sort of post. It's not very solid there. It comes off very easy, and it posts onto this little ring just below the piston mechanism. I personally never post the pen. I think this is a really pretty looking pen. Now, let's look at the ink. Can you see this? We've got this gorgeous red colour, which is what we saw when it was in the barrel, and this beautiful gold shimmer. I think it's a chameleon ink rather than a shimmer ink, but just look at that. To me, it really fetches interest. Now, at the moment, it looks really red still. One of the things I've found with this ink is it needs time to sit, and as it's drying, that shimmer, it develops even more. So this is pen number 3 at position number 3, the TWSBI VAC 700R. Just move the page up again. So what came in as position number 2 in my pens between 100 and 200 Australian dollars? So I thought about it. I looked through all the pens I've got. I looked through a lot of my writing samples, and I decided to give it to this. This is the Benu Talisman, and this is in the dragon's blood. I love the looks of this pen. Just look at this gorgeous black. Then we've got the red sparkles and we've got the green sparkles. Now, why this is position number 2, I really did debate putting this in at position number 1. But the problem with this, because of the sparkles, it's a pen I can't really take out of the house. Imagine rocking up, you go to a business meeting, you turn up, you pull your pen out, they all look at you and think, what sort of plonker is that who's got that sparkly pen? So for most of the year, this pen I can only use at home. Now December, that's a completely different kettle of fish because, I call it my Christmas pen. It's got all those Christmas colours. So in December, I think this is a pen you could get away with. Not that I get invited to many business meetings in December, but you could get away with it if you wanted. Now, why I've been moving this is there's another shimmer ink in here. Let's take a look at the nib. So here we've got the nib. This is a Schmidt nib. I always have to be very, very careful how I pronounce the name of that. It's nice. I believe this is the only Schmidt nib that I have in my collection. It's filled with a cartridge. There we are, cartridge converter there. Nice and full at the moment. I only filled this last week and I haven't used it that much. Again, the fittings, they are plastic, they are acrylic. So you've got the option, if you wanted to maybe try it eyedroppered. I don't know how well it would work. I've not tried it. I don't intend to try it. And certainly I put plenty of silicone grease and potentially an O-ring if possible on there if I was going to try that. I don't intend to though. Just put this together. And this is a Benu Talisman. It's got a broad nib. I say Schmidt nib. When I bought this cost me $167. That was about 15 months ago. Chances are it's gone up in price. The ink is by Diamine. And it's Best Wishes. This ink was day 25 of the 2022 ink vent calendar. And as it dries, hopefully you'll see it's got a red sheen, but it's also got a green shimmer to it. And that's why I've actually got it in here, because I think we've got the dark green, which matches a bit with the black. Then we'll have that red, which matches with the red sparkly, and the green shimmer with that green sparkles. Drying, fairly wet. And we'll write a sentence. This nib feels bouncy. There's a bit of softness to it. It's also got some feedback. I don't know if you can hear that as I'm writing, but it's got like a scratchiness to it. Not scratchy as in uncomfortable, but scratchy, a bit like a pencil type feedback. Again, not as pencily, not as hard as the Platinum 3776. This is spongy, this is soft, this is nice, this is enjoyable. I'd say this would have been number one. It's just the colours are just a bit too garish for me. Hopefully we can see some of the shimmer and sheen developing. Certainly there in the B of Benu I can see some of that shimmer. In the Talisman, in the word Talisman, in Grumpy, Toxic, you can see where the shimmer's just brightening up the words, and to me that all adds character to my writing. Comfortable pen in the hand, again, feels nice, not short, but getting towards that. It will post, but I find this pen, it actually feels bulky and back heavy when I post it. So I never use it posted. This is the Benu Talisman. So position number 1. Let's move the page up before we fetch the pen in. Just make sure we've got plenty of space there for writing with. Position number 1. This goes to my Opus 88 Koloro. This is a pen made in Taiwan. This is called Blue and Teal. So we've got the teal of the transparent parts and the blue of the solid parts. The solid parts, they're made of ebonite. Nice pen. This pen is an eyedropper. I'm not going to actually take it off, but to fill it, I unscrew here the section, and then I use a blunt nose syringe to put the ink into the body. There is ink in there. Hopefully you can just about see that swishing about. This is one of the things which maybe lets this down a little bit. With this teal colour transparency, it's translucent rather than transparent, and I do sometimes struggle to see the ink in there. The nib, it's a small nib, it's a number 5 size nib. Doesn't matter, it's such a joy to write with. When I'm holding the pen, lengthwise it's fine. The section, maybe a little bit on the thin side. Doesn't bother me though. because it's so nice to write with. You see here I've got this blind cap opened. Just going to close that. Very similar to the TWSBI VAC 700R, there's a rod running down with a plunger on the bottom, and that seals the section off from the body. And then you need to open it to write with to make sure that the ink can flow. Again, I'm at home recording this, so that's open. So we've got here the Opus 88 Koloro. Broad nib. When I bought this, it was 120 Aussie dollars. I've only got this one. It's a pen I may invest another one in some different colours. The ink is by Diamine. Now I've got to be careful because I often spell this wrong. It's Sargasso. I don't know why, but my brain has convinced me it should be Sargasso, but it's not, it's Sargasso. Wetness. And then I'll write a sentence. This pen, it's a joy to write with. The nib has got a little bit of softness to it. It's got a nice feedback to it. Very similar in terms of feel as what I get from the Benu Talisman. The ink, this is just a standard ink, so not expecting any shimmer or sheen or anything like that in this. But it's pleasant. I've had a number of different inks in here. Every ink looks nice. I've had no issues with flow. It just writes and writes and writes. Got this nice broad nib. Because it's an eyedropper, it holds an awful lot of ink. Doesn't need to be filled up that often. As you saw, it's a nice fit in the hand, nice and comfy. So this is the Opus 88 Koloro, and that's position number 1 in my pens between 1 and 200 Australian dollars. Let's get this paper out of the way. I'll fetch the pens back for one final look. So here are my top 5 pens between 1 and 200 Australian dollars. Position 5, the Platinum 3776 Century. Number 4, the Ranga Model 5. Number 3, the TWSBI VAC 700R. Number 2, the Benu Talisman. And at position number 1, we've got the Opus 88 Koloro. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What's your top 5? What are the 5 pens in this price range that you think you'd pick? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.